Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Moriarty. Welcome to Waterline Writers. We gather here in this beautiful art gallery to hear original creative work, all styles, all genres, and we have a bunch of styles and genres for you tonight. If you're a writer, you can participate. You can submit your work, published or not, to waterlinewriters@gmail.com. More information can be found on our website at waterlinewriters.org. In addition to our featured writers, we're going to have an open mic after our main event tonight. If you're planning to read, there's a 5-minute limit. If you did not get a chance to sign up, when you got here, there's a clipboard with a sign-up sheet. Yep, Ginny's got it back there by the steps. So you can sign up during the break. We haven't screened any of the open mic materials, so there may be some subjects that might be upsetting. If it's something that we deem inappropriate, we will stop the reading, but you guys know what open mics are like. For those of you who donated $5 at the door, thank you very much. We really appreciate your generosity. The proceeds go to the writers, and tonight I suspect some of the actors, and Water Street. If you buy a book from one of tonight's authors, there may be some books for sale, I don't know for sure, we'll refund your $5 donation. We're recording tonight's event for broadcast on BATV, so behave yourselves. We post the videos on our website also. There's some other events in the area. There's Louder Than a Bomb, where you're going to see hundreds of teen poets performing. It's February 21st to March 28th, and it's held at Columbia College. Paul Latour's Lit by the Bridge is at Culture Stock in Aurora on February 19th at 6:30 p.m. This month's featured writer is Rich Le Crapin. Did I get that right? Thank you, Paul. There's a class here called Galleries Are for Writers. Class maybe is the wrong word. It's kind of a drop-in writing group here at Water Street Studios. There's no sign-up. You just show up. A small donation is appreciated, but the group finds inspiration from the artwork here in the gallery. It's held on Sundays at 7 p.m., every Sunday night at 7 p.m., except when we're here on our Sunday. Last but not least, there's Wordplay. It's a workshop for poetry and spoken word. Happens here at Water Street Studios on the 4th Friday of the month. Their next event is February 27th. There's more information about all these events in our program. Okay, enough of me yapping. Our first writer, Tricia Marcella Samara, is an obsessed reader and lover of words. Her poetry has been published in the Prairie Light Review. Tricia's poem, The Poem That Waits Across the Street, won the 2009 Prairie Poetry Award and was given a Judge's Merit Award in Poetry by the Community College Humanities Association. She volunteers at Fabian Villa Museum, Garfield Farm Museum, and at Water Street Studios. And Water Street Studios has reinforced the ideology of think globally, act locally in her life. Tricia, please come on up.
Thank you very much. Hello. Can you hear me all right? Too loud? Good? Okay. I'm going to share 4 poems with you. 2 are not super serious and 2 are a little more serious. The first one was written many years ago for a cat of mine, the late great Jet, and in his youth he was something of a troublemaker. My black cat. As I'm getting ready to go out tonight, my black cat says, "You're not wearing that, are you?" So I say, "Oh yeah, I am," laying out a pink silk dress, good pearls, nice pumps, and he says, "That's for squares, sister. Try this on," and pulls out a tight black dress, stockings, shoes with sky-high heels, and I tell him, "Look, I told you, I want to be respectable, get married, settle down, have a house, get a dog." But my black cat keeps arguing, shaking his tail. So finally I figure, what the hell, they're just clothes. Maybe tonight I'll meet the perfect fellow. So off I go, all in black, to this snazzy lounge, and before you know it, 3 guys are giving me the eye. I haven't done a thing, I swear. But one guy's girlfriend scowls at me and yowls at her bewitched boy, "How come you keep staring at her? What's the matter with me?" Smashing a bottle on the schmuck's head, and then a big fight breaks out. And there's hissing and spitting, punching, kicking. The police come. We're all locked up. But I've got one call, so I call my black cat, all his fault anyhow, who finally, after 24 ring, picks up and purrs. Yar what yar, doll, face it. Damn that cat. But it's true, though I've tried to erase it. I am what I am. It's no use. So I wink at the cop, who disappears with a pop, and I walk out to enter the fantastic, fabulous night and fly to the sky, the wind rushing past, with my black hat on my shoulder, whispering happily, "See, sister, I knew you could never go straight. And you know what? He's right, which is exactly what he loves to hear." Thank you. My second poem is about the art of eating oranges, and it's called Eating Oranges. In a green kitchen on a hot day, a man and a woman sit at a blue table watching each other. She picks up an orange, peels it with practiced fingers, slowly, silkily. The peel is dropped, discarded like a fallen skirt, a fallen shirt. She takes an orange slice, holds it in her mouth, until all the juice slips smoothly down her throat. The seeds spit out delicately. She eats it all. Her eyes never leaving his, even after she begins to juggle 4 oranges expertly, easily. He gasps, wants her, wants her, wants her. Juicy woman, all his. Not knowing, she juggles her men the way she does oranges. The walls of her green kitchen watch jealously. They know, but can't talk. Thank you. The third poem is a poem about Loch Ness and the nature of monsters. Loch Ness, Ian's day. In the morning, Ian's wife asks him to buy the baby milk. "Oh, aye," he says, and pinches hard his baby's soft flesh. In the afternoon, Ian's mistress asks him if he truly loves her, only her. "Oh, aye," he says, and twists hard her blue-veined breast. In the evening, Ian's best friend asks him, will he pay the money back? "Oh, aye," he says, and suddenly, fiercely, Ian stabs the man dead. On the banks of the Loch Ness that flows so black and wide, Ian stabs his best friend dead. Oh yes, indeed he does, and then he walks away. Below the loch water, the creature watched. He shrank away and thought with fear, there still be monsters up above. Oh aye, there still be monsters up above. My last poem is a poem about devotion, and I call it The Selfish Poem. In eternity, my mother will pick dandelions to set on the table in an empty honey jar, and she will think of me. She will always cut her sandwich diagonally, the way she did for me. She will sleep in a large white bed and wake every night with a start because she thinks she hears me call. In eternity, I wish my mother no pain, no worry, no grief, only constant happy thoughts of me. I know it's selfish, I know it's childish, but after my mother is gone, I will go to every desolate beach and throw a bottle into the deep forever sea. I will go to every hillside and release one red balloon into the sky. I will go to every temple in this world and leave a small carved box. All these things will hold the same handwritten note that will be folded as neatly as any that my mother always hid inside my blue lunchbox. The note will say, wherever you are, don't forget me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Our next writer, her name is Angela Smallwood. She's a sophomore at Plainfield East High School. She's been interested in writing since she was a little kid, but her interest in human rights and equality led her to join the Poetry Club last year. Her main motivation is to spread knowledge of different forms of oppression and privilege through her art, both graphically and poetically. Angela, please.
Hi. This doesn't really have a title, but I'm just going to start. Okay. There was a news story on where several women who worked for Ford were coming forth about the extreme amount of sexual harassment in the workplace. My dad leaned toward the TV and said, "Those women are full of it." Ford laid off all the women the very next day. We're told to speak up, but our brains tell us to quiet down because it's either our job or our safety. Unlike men, we're not given the opportunity to have both. According to a man in a car when I was 12, my name is Sugar, my name is Honey, my name is Pretty Little Thing, whistling as you speed past, reminding me that I'm not a woman, I'm just another plaything for you to own. I am the curve of my waist, I am the shape of my thighs, I am not a person, I am my sex appeal. I'm sorry if I sound a bit whiny, I just shouldn't have to fear for my own safety when I go out alone and I'm wearing shorts with no other reason than I like shorts. Many men are accused of sexual harassment at work daily, and their bosses will laugh alongside them. What a ridiculous prospect for many. I wonder what they'd have done if they've heard what passerbys on the street have yelled at me, without realizing they might as well share the same predator's tongue, whispering words of, "You don't belong to yourself, you never have, you never will." I wonder what they'd do if someone said the same thing to their mother, their sisters, their wives, or their daughters. Sexist fathers raise feminist children, sexist fathers raise sexist boys. My dad was the very first one to tell me men are pigs, stay away, and I never even stopped to wonder why he would say such things about himself. But with his obliviousness to what women and girls go through by men and boys' hands, I am given good reason to reconsider. Oh well, I guess I'll just deal with the constant fear only stemmed from walking out in public. I'll have to cope with the stress of I shouldn't wear that, I might as well cover myself in blood and show myself in a shark tank. I'll just have to consider the buddy system every time I leave the house. After all, boys will be boys. At least that's what everyone has told me. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Our next writer, Richard Hollinger, has been here before. His fiction, poetry, and essays have appeared in the Southern Review, the Iowa Review, Boulevard, Witness, and elsewhere. He has received 3 Pushcart Prize nominations and has published 2 chapbooks of short fiction. He moved to the Fox Valley in 1979 when he started teaching English at Marmion Academy in Aurora, where he's still learning to this day. His full-length collections of short fiction and creative nonfiction are both under consideration for publication through traditional presses. He writes Rivertown Chronicles, a bi-monthly column in the Kane County Chronicle, and is founder and leader of 2 local writers groups. Rich, please.
Thanks, Kevin. I'm the guy you have to patiently listen to between Angela and Hakeem. Just amazing, Angela. Thank you, man. After this column appeared in the Kane County Chronicle about 2 weeks ago, in an online commentary, someone objected to my using Peggy McIntosh's essay, White Privilege, suggesting its late 1980s publication date a detriment to its pertinency today. I try to resist the temptation to respond to comments that beg for reproval. But if I had, I would have pointed out how sad that most of those white privileges evident in the late 20th century still hold true today. Thanks, surely, in large part, to mindsets such as those of the author of such comments. So here, in slightly different form from its first publication, thanks in large part to excellent editing suggestions by Anne, thank you, Anne, is my essay, White Privilege and Its Overlooked Perks. Ferguson, a stranglehold, Selma, undocumented immigrants, 2 shot cops. Race and ethnicity are back in the news. When I mentioned to a friend that I was thinking about writing a column on racial and cultural differences, she sent me the essay, White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Backpack. I had been taught about racism as something which puts others at a disadvantage. Peggy McIntosh, a white college professor, writes, but not to see white privilege, which puts me at an advantage. She lists 46 perks enjoyed by whites, including number 10. Whether I use checks, credit cards, or cash, I can count on my skin color not to work against the appearance of my financial reliability. Number 12. I can swear or dress in secondhand clothes or not answer letters without having people attribute these choices to the bad morals, the poverty, or the illiteracy of my race. Number 19. If a traffic cop pulls me over, or if the IRS audits my tax return, I can be sure I haven't been singled out because of my race. Number 21. I can go home from most meetings of organizations I belong to feeling somewhat tied in, rather than isolated, out of place, outnumbered, unheard, held at a distance, or feared. Number 22, I can take a job with an affirmative action employer without having co-workers on the job suspect that I got it because of race. Number 25, I can be sure that if my day, week, or year is going badly, I need not ask of each negative episode or situation whether it has racial overtones. These advantages came to my mind when recalling two recent letters published in the Kane County Chronicle. They followed recent incidents involving lethal violence between blacks and police. A Geneva man posits, living the life of a thug, that's my Mean Girls bully voice, by the way. Living the life of a thug is not a role in Hollywood. Being a member of a racial minority and or financially disadvantaged is not an excuse to break the law. No, it's not an excuse to break the law. Rather, breaking the law is, at least partially, a result of growing up in violent, impoverished neighborhoods, non-white and white. Instead of explaining away illegal behavior with a one-size-fits-all answer, he might attempt to understand the complex psychological and sociological reasons that lead to such behavior. Without police, the Genevan continues, anarchy would be the law of the land. Entire races and socioeconomic classes living on the edge of boil, impatient to tear down commercial and religious structures they rely on? Doesn't history teach rather that all races produce a relatively few disorderly malcontents? If the writer wants to cast stones at those guilty of tearing down walls, supporting the public's well-being, why not heave them at profit-driven millionaire CEOs of financial institutions whose greed helped fuel 2008's financial meltdown? Another letter believes police officers are authorized to use whatever force is necessary. That's my Henry Kissinger, Terminator, Colonel Klink voice. To use whatever force is necessary to apprehend lawbreakers. Sounds like this Batavia writer is confusing a John Wayne movie for enlightened 21st century law enforcement. A call to his local police department would disabuse him of this fantasy. The Batavian next proudly shares the fact that he has a perfect record of complying with the law when questioned. Admirable behavior. But if he's white, to imply his run-ins with authorities mirrored those of non-whites suggests naivete or a denial of the facts, available at dosomething.org/facts. Mark Twain's advice, never let facts get in the way of a good story. Many of you don't know he sounded a lot like Bill Clinton. Never let facts get in the way of a good story might apply to spinning a yarn, but not when trying to understand other races and cultures. I was reminded of the advice handed out by Nick Carraway's father in the opening lines of The Great Gatsby. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had. Because most of us didn't arrive here in our middle and upper class neighborhoods and jobs by ourselves. We need to recognize and be humbled by all the perks we take for granted. No one uses a better analogy to get this point across than pro football coach Barry Switzer. Some people are born on third base and go through life thinking they hit a triple. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick. Our next writer. His name is Hakeem Jones. He's 13 years old. He attends 8th grade at Plank Junior High School. He's enrolled in all honors classes. He has performed at numerous events for Louder Than a Bomb, that major poetry competition I mentioned earlier. He has been involved in wrestling, track, cross country. He's a percussionist in his band and participates in the wind ensemble. He's an aspiring computer engineer who hopes to attend MIT someday. I was thinking after I read his bio, I better be nice to him because I might be working for him someday. Hakeem, please come up.
Good evening. So I have two pieces today. The first one is called I Am More Than Just My Color. March in lines, picket signs thrust up fiercely. Moving feet like clockwork, this system just like clockwork. No end, just keeps ticking away. Shaped like a circle because it's a never-ending cycle of madness. 6 shots, 6 feet under. Another one of ours bites the dust, leaving no one to trust. Freedom isn't simply given to people like us. They exchange whips for pistols, keep the chains. They want us either locked up or shot up. This game of life isn't made for us to win. Don't you get it? They don't care. We protest without rest with no real justice being served. Another cop walks us one of ours to be carried away, only to be buried right next to our civil rights. To them, we are just another black. And they're ours, our lives don't matter. They want us to fall, shatter like glass into a million pieces so we're easier to divide and conquer. Nothing we do seems to help. Our shouts for justice are like their bullets, in one ear, out the other. Someone please explain to me, how do you call the police on the police? Those 3 digits might not even matter anymore because who knows if they will help or shoot. I thought we had certain unalienable rights, but when our lives are being ended, how can we pursue the happiness they won't allow us to have? Why is the million-dollar question that no one seems to have the answer to, leaving little boys and girls to ask mommy and daddy if black lives matter, why do they keep taking them away? What do you say then? How do you tell a child that there is a system out there ready to swallow them up and it might not even wait until adulthood? How will you tell them that we've been thrown into a game where the main objective is our demise? How will you answer the question why? Because I still wonder if we're all a part of the same crayon box. We're all needed to make a masterpiece. So what makes any one of us matter less than the next person? We all matter. Skin tones don't determine who lives or dies. Which people will be good or bad, slaves or masters, CEOs or game bangers, rich or poor. Black lives matter, all lives matter. No one has seen true freedom ring. Not until we've stopped allowing things like colors to control your life. For your mind to be colorblind so you can see that I am more than just my color. Maybe then we will see a change in our condition. Thank you. So the second piece is called I Write. This world has taught me why I write. My mother taught me how, but this world taught me why. Because somewhere out there is a homeless man, sitting on the edge of a sidewalk watching the cars go by without a care or even noticing. I write because with every word, that's one less kid dropping out of school. With every line, there's less tears spilling over eyelids and running down faces the way their loved one's blood poured from open wounds left to die. The only company they had was the bullet in their chest and the sound of distant sirens that will come too late. I write to fill the empty stomachs of those who spend cold nights sleeping against the side of a building. I write for those who can't speak for themselves. I write because poetry is just philosophy, with less sophistication but the same dedication to the freedom of education and the rejuvenation of our interconnected nations, so that we may join hands together in peace for world peace. But we can't have unity without you and I. I write because we can't keep on waiting for the world to change. We have to change it ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to do every time I step up to this mic, doing my part for the greater good of our nations. I write because this world has a lot to teach us, from teachers, from experience, from our mistakes. And it's our job to teach others so that they don't have to go through the struggles that we did, but they can experience the better parts of life. I write because you're never too young or old to join this movement for improvement. So it's time that you join and do your part. I write. Thank you.
All right. Our next writer, Ray Zemer. Did I get it right, Ray? Yes. All right. He is a lifelong writer of prose and poetry and is currently finishing a young adult novel called The Ghost of Jamie McVeigh. He teaches writing part-time at the College of DuPage. Over the years, he has enjoyed working with several writing groups. He is pleased to have become acquainted with the Batavia Writing Group, led by Frank Rutledge, who's here tonight. And he learned about that through Waterline Writers' website. Thanks for the plug, Ray. Born and bred on Chicago's South Side, he has made his home in DuPage County for the last 30-some years. Presently lives on the west branch of the DuPage River in Warrenville with his wife, extended family, which usually includes a 91-year-old father-in-law, several dogs and cats, and grown sons who also contribute to the family construction business. Ray, please.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for Waterline Writers for giving me the opportunity to read tonight. I'd like to share 3 pieces. I guess you could call them my city poems. Each of them in some way grew from my roots on the South Side. So this first one started as an elegy for a friend that I lost about a year ago, I guess. Gary Dubell. He was this wild-eyed, long-haired, guitar-banging, hard-drinking guy that you all probably know somebody like that. He was my friend. And this is called Riding with Gary. With Gary, it was always a wild ride. Life flying by in crazy, hysterical, star-spinning delight of joyriding teens on a hot summer night. Arms reaching, frenzied shouts, and barreling down and bottoming out. Dirty work gone in the rearview mirror, drywall dust pasted on sweat-damp skin, all pain puffed away in cigarette smoke, care washed away by whiskey's icy burn, and whites and wine. All night we breathed the melodied air billowing and strummed and sang and swelled with twisted harmonies, laughed with drunken ecstasy, crazy music making, wild raucous joy, a horrible din, impossibly bad, guitars and voices hopelessly out of tune. Speeding country lanes alive with clattering gravel through woods a blur, blasting radio tunes as we danced with danger, careened around corners, cool wind in our streaming hair, city lights sparkling. We cruised the neighborhood low and slow with catcalls and commentary and Gary's wry analysis of whatever you got. Paupers or princes, he'd been both in his time after all. He could and would talk to anybody about anything, but maybe not specifics, you know, because conspiracies abound and the fix is in. And who could deny it after checking his record? We were all part of the plot at one time, like the cops who rousted him and curbed that beater, the Blue Demon, with its hand-painted hood, dented fenders and smudgy windows, and the carpet rolled up on the roof like a corpse. Connoisseur of crazy. He knew it when he saw it, called it when he caught it. But somebody always found him a space in the parking lot and a couch, at least for a night or a month or more. Because he was irresistible, irrepressible, irreplaceable. You could hitch a ride for a while with him, then hop off or be dropped off, and somebody else would scramble inside for the next leg of the journey, along for the wild lunatic ride, as long as they could handle the heat, the hilarity, the hell-bent dash, and try to remember that Gary's maniacal ride could only ever end in a fiery crash. Thank you. In sort of the same vein, this poem is for any or all of us who ever gave a piece of our hearts to a city dog, called Eddie Hopped the Fence. Eddie slipped through the unlatched gate and vanished into the still summer night. We worried and wept all through the dark of crying sirens and plaintive trains, while he roamed the streets and zigzagged, sniffing down alleyways. But then, round about daybreak, the milkman spotted him trotting along the boulevard near Rockwell Street and called him over. Tongue lolling, Eddie rode at the open doorway as the milkman made his rounds and finally dropped him off with a gallon of Bowman's and a pint of cream. What cries of joy and sighs of relief when his wet black nose poked through the gate. But Daddy gave him a licking and a stern talking to. Bad dog! Eddie learned to cower and when to slink away, to lower his ears and tuck that corkscrew tail between his legs. But I saw his lip curl at the scolding finger. Now he'd gotten a taste of it, inhaled and savored the stink of rotten garbage and piss-marked hydrants, the sweet, intoxicating scent of a bitch in heat and the salivating, mindless, pure mounting. Once he'd tracked a cat and treed a squirrel and snarling bluffed a German shepherd, gnawed a ham bone, crushed a chicken wing, and raised a leg on every signpost, tree, and light pole between Western Avenue and Marquette Park, dodged a bus, deked a cop, and stalked the paper boy. Who wouldn't want to go and be a city dog? And so it went all summer. Eddie hopped the fence, or squeezed through the gap at a rusty wired gate post and somehow slipped away when the city called. He ran the streets and alleys and wore the bottoms off his paws. And so he'd set up on Marquette Boulevard and await the milk trucks rattle to the curb. And Daddy'd give him a whooping and shake a finger in his face. Bad dog! One time he was gone for days and days. We walked the city blocks in dread, rode all around Lithuanian Plaza calling his name. Until one joyful day, with a bark in the gangway, he wagged, collar gone, but around his neck a stranger's frayed rope chewed through. Lucky dog. He came home limping, footpads bloody from the concrete walks and cindered alleys. And Daddy stood with a rolled-up newspaper. But no, we hugged his neck. Poor thing! Instead, we washed the ragged paws and fed him a biscuit. And Grandma snuck him a fat hunk of rump roast. So next time, Eddie came limping home, and every time after, and sat bedraggled with sore paw raised. Pathetic. So he saved himself a licking with a treat to top it off. But one time, didn't he get careless and we caught him switching paws? Clever dog. But then he didn't come home, and he didn't come home, and we walked and rode and searched the prairies. Daddy left the gate unlatched, and Grandma put aside a pork chop just in case. And we called and cried, And he never came home, not ever. The milkman came with his eyes cast down and shook his head slowly. No. City dog. I grew up pretty much in the shadow of the old convent of the mother house of the convent of the Sisters of St. Casimir on Marquette Road. And, you know, like childhood things, we kind of tend to take them for granted. It was always there. And on the other hand, for me, growing up Protestant, you know, all things Catholic were just filled with mystery for me. So we heard the news last year. I heard they were closing St. Casimir's, the convent, silent and brooding, the window-pocked escarpment that ever loomed over the low, flat landscape of Marquette Manor, from prairie to parish, city square to slum. 100 years of black-shod feet shuffle into silence, sisters in voluminous folds of rustling habit, pale, perfect faces wimpled, worn out from the yowling births and the howling trauma and the violent demise of the neighborhood under the Holy Cross. No more little blonde Marias learning Lithuanian. No more Aves in the dark garden's cool shadows. No rosaries recited by ancient virgins in the murky grotto where cold water trickled silvery and the sisters' whispered prayers hung over the shrine like fog. Once the sacred grove of perfect trees bore fruit, sweet slobbery pears and mouth-puckering apples. Once the garden's night-crawler earth yielded a savory prize when, deep in the dusk, we gathered a watermelon, green, round, luscious, cracked it wide in malicious glee, but the sweet red meat glistened with a jagged hex, and we passed around a bottle to ward off the curse. Once, we wondered mysteries and horrors when Pray the Lords tramped past our bungalow. Were they shaven to the white of their skulls under the cowls, those holy wives of Christ? Breasts bound to their pallid bodies? Womanhood maimed with no maidenly vestige? Or did they bear the babies of lecherous priests in secret cellars of the mother house? Now, gangster bangers and crack whores roam the grounds, and they've tagged the Lugan monument, cracked the chapel's amber glass, and care not a bit if the secrets of St. Casimir's sword, the lily, and the crown are lost to history. Moth-white dust settles over the empty rooms and Mother Maria's venerable bones, and a busload of brittle old nuns retreats to the suburbs, where they'll bide their slow time till the end of mystery. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Our next writer is Kristen Latour. Her first full-length poetry collection, entitled What Will Keep Me Alive, is coming out late in 2015 with Sundress Publications. Her poems can be found online, in print journals, and in her 3 chapbooks. Her website, kristenlatour.com, contains links to her poems, audio of her poems, and upcoming reading events. Kristen, where are you? There she is. Come on up.
Hello and good evening. It's nice to be in such wonderful writerly company. It warms everything up on these cold, awful, cold days. I'm going to read some poems where the metaphor is that I compare a woman's heart to an everyday object you would find around the house. The years my heart was a tarp. Manufactured to be nearly impervious to water, sharp objects, to cover or support, its uses seem never-ending. Practical, green, a perfect square with grommets at the corners, it may not be pretty all the time, although no one can argue over the lovely shade cast by a tarp tied to the oak trees and staked to the grass at a 45-degree angle against the sun. A picnic of cheese and grapes and good home-baked bread spread in the shade, the river nearby, and children playing happily in a clearing far enough away that their laughter echoes instead of pierces. When it rains, it keeps those underneath dry, at least their heads and shoulders, if not their feet. When possessions are packed in a cart, it will keep them together, tied down and safe. In storms, it may billow, even blow away, but collect it, hose it off, and it's good as new. It doesn't complain, doesn't say the tent is too small, understands when it is pierced accidentally by a box cutter. Fold it up and put it in the garage, in the trunk, in the basement, or the shed, and years later, it will be ready to be of service. The same green, only with just a few more cracks, a little rust on the grommets, but strong and useful. Thanks. I have to tell you, I follow, I'm really into mid-century modern stuff, furniture and art and all sorts of things. There was a Pyrex casserole container. Do you guys know Pyrex, the glass? It sold for $4,000 on eBay over the weekend. $4,000 for casserole. The years my heart was a Pyrex mixing bowl, not a $4,000 casserole. Butterprint shows a couple, Dutch, holding hands, and always puts me in mind of housekeeping, the kind children practice at play, a table set with pink dishes and cups of water for tea, plastic bananas and Oreo cookies on cocktail napkins. The princess bowl is practical, with handles that double as pour spouts, making it good for an electric mixer or a wooden spoon, the left hand making sure the bowl stays steady as butter creams into sugar and eggs or powdered sugar becomes less and less mass in the presence of a little milk. Cakes, cookies, brownies, of course. Baking sweets for the sweet is always appreciated, but it doubles upside down as a stand for a tray of bars hot from the oven or a tub to hold bleach water to clean stained coffee cups. In a pinch, it'll serve mashed potatoes, hold soup as it cools, a round belly of bread dough set to rise in a sunny window, the trees bending a little in the breeze, the squirrels scurrying as if in play. Maybe tag. The birds singing and swooping, understanding the seasons always change. There is always some danger, even on the sunniest day. Glass can be made strong, but it is still breakable. Flea bites on the rim come from nowhere. A scratch in the pattern erases a flower. The couple keeps holding hands, keeps holding whatever the bowl will. This one has the longest title. The years my heart was a stoneware coffee mug with your name printed on it. It's a souvenir from the Dells, some hokey reminder of water parks and nieces, of family arguments and bad taste in gifts. It's fine to use for common company, the kind that stops by out of the blue to chat, the kind that asks for tea when everyone else is having beer. You leave it in the cabinet during thrift store purges, knowing it's handy to have, packed over and over through several moves. Who cares if the handle is damaged or the lip is chipped while it's in transit? It's replaceable, common for a common name. There must be millions of people with it. Another trip, another shop, and it can be found with a different picture, one that's funnier or more natural, Snoopy, or a scene from South Dakota. The good mugs all match, are all the same turquoise blue, but are barely ever used. This one is yours. No one else has the same memories of summer spent driving the 2-lane highway through Wisconsin, the music blaring, the windows down. Two more, just so you know where we're at. The years my heart was a terracotta rabbit lawn ornament. I didn't realize when I wrote that one that it was going to be a tongue twister. The years my heart was a terracotta rabbit lawn ornament. We abandoned the life-sized rust-colored bunny, standing on her hind feet, ears back beside the rhubarb for 3 winters. The first summer, she was alert, nose in the air, enjoying the full sun and the rain, birds bathing nearby, splashing. The first winter was wet, left the yard spongy and brown. The moss stayed green in the corners, the sky a slate of gray. The second summer, untended, brought creeping William and spreading irises, shading out the rhubarb and rabbit alike. The winter was arctic, as if a glacier had advanced and retreated while we warmed ourselves under white comforters. The third summer, the garden went wild. The rabbit was buried under thistles and ivy, and we decided to call all the weeds perennials. The last winter was cold and dry. Ice formed from the fog that blew in off the rivers and pushed at the sidewalks no one walked. Now I dig out the beds, reseed the lawn. I find the rabbit, one ear missing, her back scaly and flaking. I mend her, make promises. All right, and this is the last one, but it's the longest one. So again, you can take a deep breath, like, okay, it's the longest one, we can do this. The years my heart was a Persian rug, knotted in red, black, and brown, the color of sandstone. The women made it to last years, to accept the men's feet that would tread upon it, the children who would dance with their arms waving, jumping and laughing, the women who would sit quietly on it, sipping tea and offering advice in such subjects as the marriage bed, how to cook chickens, what is best for washing hair to make it shine and wave. With each knot turned around the warp of the woven fibers, a prayer was given for the home the rug would find, that it would be warm, clean, quiet, that it would be without anger and loud, piercing words, that it would be filled with the quietest sleep and bright sunshine. All rugs begin new, the patterns bold and easy to read. Diamonds together for a couple holding hands. Ewers for a full store of oil to light lamps. Massage the body, cook spring lamb. Combs for purity, the freshly washed and combed hair of a woman, how it falls across her husband's body, a shield against other lovers. Stars for the night sky, the peace of sleep. God's eyes looking down on them, always keeping watch. The women's prayers, their fingers making knots, their hearts beating as they tell long stories for the hours and days and weeks it takes to make the patterns. Their breath entering every fiber of the wool, were never enough to guard against the worst damage. Time and the slow work of sand and water on a rug. Each foot adds a grain of dirt, a drop of moisture. An animal's nails may tear it, fur and smell sink into it. Each year, the rug is taken out and beaten. the dust rising in clouds. It never is as new as it once was. It is moved from one room to another, set aside, brought back to the center, rolled up and put in a basement, maybe carried away, stored for a time. When it is rediscovered, the stories are told of when it was new, how bright the red dye was that year, how it never has been as bright as it was then. A child may trace the diamonds humming. A mother may gather her into the folds of her dress, tell a story about two lovers who met, and years later found each other as if they were never parted. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Okay, our next performance, it's a play, actually, and the playwright is Neil Shanahan. He's a network playwright and board president at Chicago Dramatists, and also a partner with Ken Clark Partners, a global executive search firm. His plays, Mandatum and Miranda's World, have been read in the Chicago Dramatists Saturday series, Director's Lab, and Monday series. Tonight's scene is from Lighthouse Beach, his full-length play currently in development with the Dramatist Script Lab. Our actors, Jana Blumberg, she performs, directs, and is the current marketing manager at the Albright Theater, right down the street down there. Joining her is Galen Malik, and he has appeared in plays at the Albright Theater and also plays with the Batavia Arts Council. Both are members of the comedy group Troupe Strozzi. A teeny bit about the play. Lighthouse Beach is in Evanston on the North Shore. In the early 1980s, female neurosurgeons were extremely rare, and in this story, the character Christine is the first woman ever to enter Northwestern's neurosurgeon residency program. Michael is head of the department and serves as her mentor. Okay, we got a little setup. Come on up, guys. Move the camera. Where do you want this one, guy? Test that one for me. Thank you.
The setting is an upscale hotel bar or lounge in Chicago, November 1982. We hear the music by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, Staying Alive, briefly. Michael and Christine are seated with drinks. She's laughing at something he said and gathering her things.
Must you?
It's getting late. I'll miss my train.
I have some news.
No?
I'm not sure how you're going to feel about it.
You mean I won't like it?
I wanted to tell you earlier.
You're nervous.
I received an offer, a very attractive offer.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
It's in New York.
You're right. I'm starting not to like it.
NYU head of neuro.
Wow. Just like that, out of the blue.
Actually, yes and no.
Oh, that's helpful.
It's complicated.
That word always has a menacing tone to it.
Christine, try to keep an open mind.
Sure.
No, I think this could be our breakthrough moment.
Really?
I want you to come with me.
Whoa, Michael, slow down. You're way ahead of yourself. I don't have a clue what's going on. I didn't even know you were looking.
Well, I wasn't. A friend called a friend and recommended.
And you just went with the flow.
I suppose.
That's not like you. When did all this happen?
We wrapped things up yesterday.
The interview.
It wasn't really a traditional interview.
The powwow, the secret rendezvous, whatever you want to call it.
The symposium in New York, remember? We had dinner.
I remember the symposium.
The CEO called. He suggested we meet. Obviously, this is one of the reasons you go to these things, to connect with people. So, well, I thought, wow, the CEO of NYU Hospital wants to meet me. He showed up with 3 of his senior guys, a 4-star restaurant, Kobe steaks, cognac, the works. They were anticipating retirement somewhere in the future. I thought it was just exploratory.
Hojo's is exploratory, not that.
You're upset.
If someone bought me a Kobe steak, even without the cognac, I'd tell you about it. When was the symposium? I don't remember exactly.
A while ago. It's all a blur right now.
Oh, here it is. It was a month ago.
They insisted confidentiality. They didn't want the incumbent to hear through the grapevine.
I thought he was retiring.
They might have been retiring him.
You were afraid I might say something and blow the whole idea?
Of course not. I really didn't think anything would happen, not this soon.
Yes, it all makes perfect sense. Well, congratulations. It's a big day for you.
I know this isn't easy, but we can make this work. This is good news. Maybe a little champagne?
I really do have to catch that train. We'll celebrate it over the weekend.
Christine, please think about it. I really want us to be together.
When do you start?
3 weeks.
That soon?
It's a fresh start. Why in the world would you not want to do this?
Maybe because you're oblivious.
Please, stay. We need to talk. I'll drive you home.
When did they make the offer?
Last week. I told them I'd have to think about it. The next day they came back with a bigger package. We've gone back and forth some smaller things since.
Michael, I want to be happy for you. I know it's a terrific opportunity for you. You deserve it. What I don't know is why you kept me in the dark for so long. There's something you're not telling me.
Perhaps I was waiting for the right time.
Good God. This is the right time?
I've never really had a partner before. I've always made my own decisions. Maybe I'm not very good at this.
Pesky, these relationships.
There's been a lot going on.
Michael, please.
I didn't expect an offer so soon.
You've given your notice?
I'm meeting with Metcalf tomorrow.
You finally had to tell me.
Can we start thinking about the positives of this?
You keep me in the dark like a mafia wife for over a month, and I'm supposed to jump when you say jump? You know perfectly well I didn't claw my way through med school and everything else to do that.
Christine, you knew something had to happen. You had to.
What does that mean?
I am chief of spinal surgery.
Is there a problem? Has something happened? What are you not telling me?
They asked about us. Discreetly, of course.
I don't believe this. Who? What did they want to know?
Metcalf.
When?
I don't know, 2-3 months ago. Apparently your guy Johnson said something to him. He heard a rumor.
Jesus, Michael, you never said a word. Don't you think I had a right to know?
I was wondering if maybe you should report elsewhere.
To whom? The head of the dentistry department? There is no elsewhere. I'm sure you explained that I take day-to-day direction from the attending physicians, like you explained to me when you said it didn't matter and anyone who found out about us would see that. God, was I really that naive?
Of course, I explained it, but it was never really any danger. They wanted to make sure, that's all. He hasn't raised it since.
And he didn't have to. You got the message. Of course, I didn't get the message because you didn't tell me, nor did he. I suppose that's how the good old boy network works. A nod, a wink, nobody talks. I bet it was Metcalf who put the word in for you to his pals at NYU.
He may have said something.
Jesus Christ. Now I understand.
I was looking out for both of us. I wanted to come to you with the problem and the solution. Maybe hindsight doesn't seem right, but it made sense then.
Wow. Your boss calls you in, lays it out in menacing terms, makes a call to NYU, and before you know it, you're in New York being wined and dined. Then I get a career opportunity wrapped in a tidy gift box like a prearranged marriage. I have to hand it to you. When you set your mind to do something, it gets done.
I was trying to create a new life for us, a normal life, free from all these complications. That's what I was trying to do.
What a chauvinistic thing to say. You forgot one thing. I have a working brain. We could have worked through this together.
I never doubted that. I've always been your champion.
You let me go on for months thinking everything was perfectly all right between us, and all the while, the storm clouds were gathering.
There's one more thing you should know. NYU really wants to talk to you. I told them about you. Honey, this could be terrific. We could move in together. We're ready for this. We could take this thing to the next level.
Oh, that's beautiful. You told them about me, but not me about them.
One of the top medical institutions in the world is interested in hiring you. What is so bad about that?
No one is going to run my life or my career for me. No one.
You're right. It's late. You're upset. Let me drive you home.
Stop telling me I'm upset. Why would I be upset? You just got your dream job. I'm happy for you.
Sure. I should have told you.
Metcalf's going to be pretty proud of himself when you tell him tomorrow.
He'll be relieved.
Someday, I'm going to start an old girls' club.
Now, let's go. I'll get the car.
No, I'll be okay. I'll take the later train. I'll see you tomorrow in Scrub. Metcalf already knows, doesn't he?
Yeah, he knows.
You should order that champagne. You've earned it. Think of me as you celebrate your accomplishments.
There's Michael, the main student.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, our next event is March 15th. I want to thank all of our writers and readers tonight. Jana Blumberg, Tricia, Marcella Samara, Richard Allinger, Hakeem Jones, Kristen Latour, Galen Malik, Neil Shanahan, Angela Smallwood, and Ray Zemer. I'd like to thank tonight's volunteers, Frank Rutledge, Barbara Barrows, Nick Markaviches, Ginny Klespitz, Paula Garrett, and Kristen Latour. Thank Water Street Studios for letting us use this wonderful facility. And most importantly, and most of all, thanks to all of you for coming on this really cold night. I really do appreciate it. So thanks. Good night.